The Autopia was an opening day attraction at Disneyland. It has let guests take a trip on a futuristic highway without needing a license. But you already know that. What you might not know is that it was originally one of many Autopias. There was the Tomorrowland Autopia, the one everyone knows, the Fantasyland Autopia, previously known as the Junior Autopia and later known as the Rescue Rangers Raceway, and, the subject of today's video, the Midget Autopia. I talked about the Midget Autopia briefly when I did my Marceline video last year, but upon another trip this year, I thought I could talk more in depth about the attraction, how it left Disneyland, and what became of the track today. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the history of the Midget Autopia. The Midget Autopia opened in 1957, 2 years after Disneyland opened. This was the third Autopia track, following the Tomorrowland and Junior Autopias that opened in 55 and 56 respectively. It was, as the name suggests, the smallest of the three tracks, located behind the storybook canals in Fantasyland. The ride featured not only a smaller track, but smaller cars. If you were too small for the other Autopias, then the Midget Autopia was right for you. Parents had to wait at the exit because this ride was for kids and kids only. The ride itself was pretty basic. You rode over a few hills, through a tunnel, climaxing with a thrilling drive through a door. It wasn't as high-tech as some of Disneyland's other attractions, not even when compared to the other Autopias. The Tomorrowland Autopia was meant to be the highway of the future, regardless of how dated it became. The Midget Autopia was just a quaint little drive through the countryside. Something that a lot of guests could experience at home. To make matters worse, it had low capacity and was only accessible to the smallest of guests. You know what Walt said about wanting parents and kids to have fun together? That wasn't possible with the Midget Autopia. Parents would have to wait on a bench, watching their kids have fun without them. And in a park that had problems with space since opening day, it took up valuable real estate that could be used for premium attractions. The Midget Autopia lasted in Disneyland until 1966, when the land was cleared to make way for It's a Small World. The ride was a monster hit at the New York World's Fair, with wait times reportedly being up to 3 hours long. So, when the fair closed, they packed it up and brought it to Anaheim. But they needed the space for it, and the Midget Autopia wasn't anything too remarkable to keep, so it was closed. Normally, that's where the story would end. I don't think anyone anticipated what would happen next. Instead of tearing it up and leaving the parts to rot in some Disney warehouse, the Midget Autopia was packed up and moved out of Disneyland to Marceline, Walt's boyhood home. To date, it's the only time an attraction has moved from a Disney park to another place. It was a gift to the children of Marceline from its favorite sons, Walt and Roy. I made an entire video last year about Marceline and its Disney connection, so go watch that if you want to hear more about it. To make it brief, Walt once said that more things of importance happened in Marceline than anywhere else in his life. So, he wanted to express his appreciation for the town through this massive gift. To quote his dedication speech, "You know, I was a youngster in Marceline and there wasn't much time to do anything but work. And there was always plenty of that. The whole family had their work cut out for them every minute from dawn to sundown every day. When I look back on those years, I always end up comparing them to the present. We have certainly come a long way. Thanks to the advances we have made over the years, all made possible by the freedom we enjoy as American families today, have time to play together as well as work together, and that is very important, because it makes the family a closer unit. That is one of the many reasons I am happy to have a part in making the Walt Disney Municipal Park even more attractive to the Marceline families by donating our little automobile ride to the city. The ride was very popular with Disneyland's younger guests, and I hope it will be an equally big hit with the children of Marceline. As you can imagine, this was unprecedented. No one could have predicted this. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the town of Marceline, so of course they said yes. Plan suggested that this was going to be the start of a greater series of attractions in Marceline, but that is a story for another day. The Midget Autopia sat at the Walt Disney Municipal Park, opening in July of 1966. Though he planned on returning, Walt wasn't present at the dedication ceremony. He recorded a speech, but sadly the actual recording is lost. Why didn't he come? It wasn't because he was too famous, but because he wasn't allowed to travel. According to friends in Marceline, his doctor told him to avoid traveling because he was sick. As we would later find out, it wasn't just a cold, it was cancer. Walt Disney passed away months later, making this his final gift to Marceline. The attraction lasted in Marceline for another 10 years, 1 year longer than it did at Disneyland, which I think is rather impressive given that it didn't have the constant maintenance staff that Disney Park has. But that would also be the attraction's downfall, as you would guess. To maintain vehicles, they had to scrap other vehicles for parts. And keep in mind, this ride had low capacity as is, so this made it even worse. Eventually, the upkeep was too expensive to maintain, so they scrapped the whole thing, officially closing it in 1977. The leftover parts were put into storage, and the track became a small sidewalk, remaining in the municipal park for the following decades. The track was paved over with concrete, and one could still see the rails that the cars went through on the pavement. That said, there were hopes to rebuild it one day. In 2008, someone at Imagineering got the idea to rebuild the track from scratch, placing it in the E.P. Ripley Park. They started talking with the people who run the Walt Disney Hometown Museum to make this dream a reality. New plans were drawn, and they even started talking to people to build new cars. But it hasn't come to fruition. Marceline's a small town and doesn't get a lot of funding for these kinds of civic projects. And while they have a good relationship with Disney, they don't get much financial support. Also, the economic crash had just happened, so it made the money problem even worse. Plans for a Midget Autopia 3.0 were kinda shelved. But the ride has taken on a new life, so to speak. The old walking trail was removed from the municipal park, and a new one was built at the E.P. Ripley Park, just behind the museum, rededicated in September of this year. It features the old plaque that stood in front of the attraction, and a new sign outlining its history. Kids can ride little scooters around the track, simulating what it was like to ride it. And now, please enjoy a walkthrough of the new track. more obscure attraction, there isn't much remaining of it anywhere. The Walt Disney Hometown Museum features an exhibit about the Midget Autopia, complete with one of the old cars and some artifacts related to it. This includes some pieces of an old car, letters between Disney and Marceline about the attraction's opening, a program from its dedication, and a transcript of Walt's taped speech. But you don't have to go to Marceline to see remnants. If you go on the Autopia in Disneyland today, you can see a bronze statue of a car on the side of a track. It's another one of the old cars, a tribute to this lost attraction. For such a small ride, the Midget Autopia has a very interesting life. It's remembered fondly today, not just by the children who rode it at Disneyland, but by the people of Marceline as well. It goes to show that no matter how big or small something is, it can still have an impact on the lives of people all over the world. And that concludes the history of the Midget Autopia. Now I'll pass the question off to you. What did you think of this? Did you know anything about this history at all? And what's your favorite piece of obscure Disney history? Whatever you're thinking, let me know down in the comments. A big shout out goes to Yesterland.com for a lot of the pictures of not just the original Midget Autopia, but also the old track that used to be in the municipal park. Big shout out to that. Go check out his website, I've linked it in the description. But that's all the time I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.